Okay, in this tutorial we're going to be looking at how a black and white map used for transparency can help you add detail to a low polygon character. So the first thing I want you to do is just load up the Viking character, and we've got a couple of bits on here where we're just going to add alpha so you can learn kind of exactly how that works. And the first bits we're going to do are just put kind of torn cloth onto the sides of his tunic thing here. So in Adobe Photoshop, if you just load up the texture, so obviously the first thing we need to do is get the area that we need to paint. So if you just come into 3DSMax and add an unwrap UVW modifier here, we'll just turn off that seam display. The reason it's doing that is because the model's so small. The model's really small. It was just to do with the exporter at the time for the actual kind of games engine thing. Okay, so if you just go to edit and then go to face mode here, and in fact we can just load in the texture so we can see it here, and just select a kind of face on each shoulder bit. So you can see one's up here and one's down here, so we've got two kind of different ones to paint. We could overlay these, but for this we're going to have two separate ones just to make it a bit more interesting. So what we need to do is actually bake out this template. So if we go to Tools, Render UVW Template, and we'll leave this at 1024 by 1024, and we'll just leave it off solid in this occasion. Just hit Render UV Template, then we'll save this just as UV Templates. And a JPEG is fine in this case. So we'll just load up that file. Now if you press Control A and then press Control C, that will select all, and then Control C will copy, and if you come back over to the texture and just press Control V, that will paste it into a new layer. As we can see at the moment, it's at 1024 by 1024 when this texture is 2048 by 2048. So an easy way to fix this, if you just hold Control and press T, then up here we'll just set this to 200% and this to 200% as well. Just apply, and there we go, we can now see our template. In order to make it visible, so we can see the actual kind of diffuse layer below, sorry, I just delete these two layers here. So select this layer, and you see we've got our blending modes here, so just try browsing through these to see the kind of effects you get, and you should be able to find one that's kind of suitable. Say screen. All this does, this blending mode thing, it just it interprets how this layer affects the layer below. So if you just have it on, say, normal, and you can change the opacity down like so. These are really useful. In this case we're just going to use screen, but later on you'll see how kind of useful these blend modes are for when you're doing other kind of stuff to your textures. So we can see here we've got one bit here and one bit here, and what we're going to do is use a black and white alpha to make these bits kind of transparent. So the first thing we're going to do is just actually add an alpha in so you can see how it works. If we come over to channels here, just click this little button down here, and you'll see we've created an alpha. Now remember the way an alpha works, anything that's black is completely invisible, and anything that's white is completely visible, and kind of grey is translucency in between. So if you just fill that in with white, and then what I want you to do is just grab a random brush and just put kind of an area like that onto the alpha. Okay, so if we come back up to our RGB, go over to layers and just turn that off. Then we'll just go to File, Save As, and we'll just save this as vikingdiffuse.targa. Now you need to make sure that you save as Targa, and the reason we do this is because the Targa can have an alpha channel embedded in it, and it's got reasonable, like, good quality compression as well. This is why this format is used so often in kind of games and rendering and stuff. So if we just hit save, now you see you're then presented with this option. Now 24 bits means red, green and blue, so there's 8 bits per channel. But 32-bit means you have red, green and blue and alpha, so 4 times 8, 32. So we just hit OK on that. Now if we go back to our max file, and in our shader down here, we'll just go to tick on opacity. Well, first of all in our diffuse, let's just make sure we're loading in the right diffuse map. It's that one, so we'll hit open. And then tick on your opacity tab and drag opacity down to here. And we'll do this as a copy in this case actually. You can see straight away we've got translucency, but it's not kind of interpreting it properly at the moment. So if you tick on this tab here, and first of all set the channel output to alpha, and then an alpha source, set it to image alpha, and you can see we're actually getting our alpha displayed. That should be working for you like that. Obviously it's completely random at the moment, but hopefully this kind of shows you the kind of principle of it. Where the alpha is painted black, the model is now completely translucent. So if we just go back up to the top here, and we'll go back into Photoshop, and now let's have a go at actually kind of painting that properly. So in our layers, we'll turn back on our preview of our UVs here, so we can use that as a reference. One little thing we need to check actually, if we just go to edit in our UVs, is which vertice we want, which way round these are. So if you just select a vert, yeah, cool, we can see that's there, so we know we need to have our kind of rips coming down here, like so. So the way I normally kind of go about doing this is add in a layer here, and I'll just kind of fill that in with white, make sure it's completely white, and then add another layer on top, and this is going to be the kind of black area. So we'll turn that off, zoom into here, and then we'll just select a black brush, and then just for the sake of giving you this demo, we'll just block in some kind of random tears. This is a bit of a bodge job to be honest, but it's well enough for this demo. We'll come round under here and put it up to there. Now one thing we need to make sure of actually is that the scene kind of matches up here. So I haven't done it correctly there, but then we can see how it's not going to work properly. And then we should be able to fill in that area there. If not, it means there's a gap somewhere. But either way, you can just kind of go in and just now kind of paint this area up as you kind of see fit. So obviously we need this whole kind of area to be filled in with black. Another way you can do this is just by kind of selecting the area with this tool. Totally kind of up to you how you want to do this. To be honest, this isn't the most efficient way by any stretch of the imagination, but at least it means I get to show you some random tools. So let's just kind of seal that bit off. And then you can either just kind of fill this in with a nice big brush, or you can use the edit fill option here. And that will just fill that whole bit in with black anyway. So we'll just try another way. Just doing a selection on there. And if you go to select, modify, expand, and expand that by a couple of pixels, and again, just kind of paint that bit in there. There's loads of kind of different ways for kind of filling in areas that you want to do, like so. Okay, so the only other thing we need to do is just make sure that this alpha doesn't kind of intrude on any other areas. So I'm just going to select my white layer, turn that down a bit like that. Select this and just kind of delete out any area where it's kind of intruding onto other UVs. We're actually fine here anyway. Okay, so we now have our completed alpha. So what you can do here, if you just hold Control and then click on the alpha painted layer here, go to Channels, here's our alpha here, and what we can do is now just paint that selection in the alpha just completely black, or use fill, whatever you want. We'll deselect that, and then we'll just do a nice big selection on this bit that we don't want anymore, and we'll fill that in there. Okay, so now we have kind of the start of our basic alpha. Come back over to layers and we'll just turn those off, turn that one off. So now we have a texture here, and in our alpha channel we just have the area there. So again, we'll save this as Targa, record over our old map, and then should be able to see our kind of ripped clothing effect appearing on here. And that's pretty much kind of how you can use the alpha to do that. So what I want you guys to do now is just have a go at doing the other side, try and get this looking a bit better than what I've done here, and also do it for this kind of bottom area around the tunic here.